hour of 6 o'clock having arrived. Do we want to wait for Paul or not? I'll call this meeting of the Trempealeau County Property Committee to order. We have open meeting law requirements have been met through proper posting. We have a 12-item agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adopt that agenda as printed.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carry.
Your microphone on that side.
Nope.
Oh, that.
Minutes have been distributed from the last meeting on September 11th. I'll entertain a motion to adopt those minutes as distributed.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here. I don't know what. Did we hear from Adi on that?
Yeah, you can hear us.
Yeah. Okay. Opposed, same sign. Carried. Public comment period. Members of the public have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person or call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call 715-538-1894. Public comment may be extended or curtailed at the discretion of the committee/board chair and after advisement by the committee/board. We have number 6, discussion/action on meeting room policy and security. Now, if I remember correctly, this is a financial move because the security in after hours would depend on whether or not we want to pay for somebody to sit at the security checkpoint.
Sorry.
That's the security aspect of it.
Sorry.
And then kind of a separate segment of that agenda item is, are we going to have limited, unlimited access to meeting rooms after hours for committees or entities other than county 4-H, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, etc. Take it away, people.
Adi, can you hear?
Yeah.
Dick, you look like you have something you really want to say.
Trying to stimulate our thought process here. Our past discussion, I think we talked about
Put your microphone on.
maybe just well it isn't on. I think the previous discussion we talked about something to the effect if a someone like the extension office was here and let people in. I think that was just left hanging though, wasn't it? We really didn't get too serious about any discussion.
We have not narrowed down the details
Yeah.
on any of it. I have had more than a couple thoughts about it, and I waver.
Well, we do have a policy on after-hours use, right, Paul? It's your office has that policy, which is separate. It's separate from the
Yeah, that's what I was.
control screening, but it's mentioned in here that the county clerk's office has will authorize the after hours. And I don't know as though those procedures are not working today or not.
No, we've not had really any privates come in.
Since COVID.
Yeah, that's probably right. You know, I know it's the Fair Board. That's usually just a once a year deal. And now Tammy had something with 4-H. And there hasn't been a lot of after hours. I couldn't think of anybody.
No, you go back 6 months and see nothing.
Yeah.
So right now, the policy is that they simply arrange that through you, or they do it on their own?
No, they can't do it on their own. They have to come through us for all the meeting rooms.
Okay.
Then usually what happens is we'll mention it to Jeremy and we
Oh.
figure out how to let them in. And usually what it is not the rock in the door, but somebody, like the Wisconsin room works great, for some after hours, because then they just come in that door and come into that meeting and done, they just go back out again.
And theoretically, they won't be wandering all over the building.
Right.
But that Wisconsin room won't be available.
No, that'll be part of human services.
See, the
So
problem
now
is,
where our meeting rooms are gonna be technically upstairs, just off of the entrance, across where the county clerk and treasurer are. That's gonna be our meeting rooms.
Jeremy,
And I
So
think,
currently, if you were to do something now, today, the Wisconsin room is the best option. When the new building is open, you will have the Emergency Operations Center room, which is right off of the main lobby. You will have
is that what,
it's in the sheriff's department.
oh, that's what he calls the training.
Well, there's two
training
doors to
room.
that one, though. There's one off of the sheriff's hallway, there's one off of the main lobby. I don't know about card reader access if I give someone access to that room, can they get through after hours into the sheriff's department? I'm pretty confident it should be locked and secured.
That's what I was gonna
So
ask.
that room would be available.
That's
You would
what they
have
call
two
the training
conference
room,
rooms.
right?
Correct. And then you would have two conference rooms on the second floor of this building where child support is located now.
Yep.
But depending on construction timing, I don't know when those would be available.
And
And
see,
then
they
you would
could only
have the
come
new
up-
boardroom would also be available
Oh,
for after
yeah,
hours.
that's right.
So you would have 3 different sized or 4 different sized rooms, because the two where child support is are 2 different sizes as well. So you'd be able to accommodate from 4 people to 40 people with ease. It just,
And
again, there's not a lot of
If
interest.
they go upstairs right there to like across what's gonna be county clerk and treasurer,
Mhm.
they can't get into the rest of the building anyway, because there's those
Yeah,
double
there'll
doors.
be, so
are
there,
still-
there is doors where the building connects, and then there will be another door, like where the existing doors are now on the second.
Those are the
so
ones that
that
are-
would secure that.
now, are there restrooms available in the hallway there then?
And
Yeah.
once the new building is open, yes. And then currently, yes, there's access to restroom. There's ones there would be 2 sets when the new building is open, one on the first floor and one on that 1.5 floor. That would be not behind any locked doors. And currently, if they use the Wisconsin room, there's the 2 that are right there across from the main entrance.
So so everything could be secured and have availability to the 4 rooms that have been mentioned, plus
3.
restrooms.
I don't think, we shouldn't really speak for the sheriff there. He might not want people in that EOC
Well, might
after
there be
hours.
equipment in there that?
He did mention once that he planned that room for training, but that was only 4 times a year, and then it was gonna be available for other things.
Right, but he's talking about staff meetings. I don't think after-hours meetings with 4-H and that EOC is gonna be
Yeah.
something he's gonna want.
They wouldn't need that bigger room, 'cause that's
Either one.
pretty
If
good
you took
size.
that out, then you would still have the existing, or the new boardroom.
The new
And
boardroom
then the 2 other small
Two-
offices.
Yep,
And technically, this room.
You know, we've had, can you
No,
access
'cause
this and?
wouldn't there be doors at where the?
But if
buildings-
I'm getting into the hallway in front of clerk of court for those other 2, you're gonna get to the stairs that come down here.
I guess I can't visualize that, but.
Because I don't think there's a badge reader at the end of that hallway where the door right outside of extension is that hallway. Now, there's not a secured entrance on that one. As it sits, that's something, again, that we,
Can we back up just a little bit? There's, in my mind, no real argument that we should make some room available for public meetings, not employees, because the people are paying for this. We need to be a part of the community and provide spaces for them to meet if they need them. The argument, I think, is making sure the access is controlled, and then the long discussion is, are we gonna have a security checkpoint for every meeting? And I don't think, we think we can afford that.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is it possible for dispatch or jail to let them in the building at the front entrance by people picking up the phone to call dispatch, or by waving at the camera and then let them in?
Well,
Because the rocking the door thing isn't gonna be acceptable.
no, but if it's like now, if it was just 4-H here tonight, if it was Tammy or whatever, I could set that door to only be unlocked for, I guess it's essentially a rock in the door, but the new building would have the same,
But it is monitored by dispatch and,
yep.
and the new one should be as well.
Cameras,
There's
yeah.
cameras there.
right. So you can have an entrance that is controlled so that you can lock it at a certain time and make sure everybody's vacated the building. But you should, I would mention that when you say you have doors between the buildings, right? So they would only have access to the lobby, and the county boardroom, and that lobby outside the county boardroom was all they could get, right?
Correct. There's one at
So-
the end of the hallway in front of the courts as well.
For simplicity, then wouldn't it behoove us to limit it to that space until we get acclimated to the new space and figure out how the security is gonna work between the buildings?
And that's fine too. Whatever they want to make available is what we can make.
Yeah, because we could back that up, but once you go inside the old building, then there's ways to get around elsewhere that,
Well, and it
during the
depends on
construction.
where we are in the construction process as well, if what's, where there's going to be readers and whatnot, so.
The new building will be open before the old building is ready to be used, is my understanding.
Depending on what happens, I imagine.
Kurt?
I guess just to chime in, what I've seen other counties consider is the moment that you don't screen that entrance, you open up the opportunity for, if that's not screened when you have an after hours event, someone can come in and place a weapon somewhere in the building that has not been monitored. And that's the only thing that I would suggest you consider, because I think it's a bigger discussion on security of what's the comfort level, because whether it's a backpack that's somebody just walks in and it's stuck somewhere for the next morning, I mean, all those things come into consideration. So depending on what level that security is, by having these events, you can real quickly shut down the efficiency or the event of that screening. Because if somebody wants to plan something, they will come up with that game plan. So the way to eliminate it, and I know the need of wanting to have the public get in here, and I echo your position, taxpayers are doing it, but there is what's the value of not having the screening? The question is, can you afford having them here? Can you afford not having them here? That's always the discussion at this level.
Well, and human nature tells me that we can't afford to have that screening until it goes south, and then what the heck were we thinking?
I can tell you what other counties have done is that they've planned for a few meetings a month in the budget. And when those fill up from a staffing perspective, they have to find another date, rather than it just being an open forum of, hey, there's a meeting room available there. You've already budgeted for them. And if the meeting is not then scheduled, then obviously it's a savings on staffing. But if you plan for it, you tell the community you have one a week available, that's what's budgeted. That way you're not doing it you're not doing it every day is available. Now you've still given an opportunity, but now you've budgeted for it for potential hours, right? So,
Has exec finance met on that budget issue
We
yet?
don't start till Wednesday.
Okay. Well, I can talk with the sheriff, as I kind of like that adding to the line item that is the security item, see if he feels strong enough to add some money to that line item.
Paul, is there any policy regarding what kind of groups can meet here?
Yeah. Did you anybody bring down the policy?
Not that part of it. I mean, we've
I
got
can-
the government center screening and controlled access policy, but
Oh.
not the
Not the meeting room?
public and after use policy.
Well, I guess I
No, it wouldn't have all my handwriting on it.
don't know if you can recall, but I would, if indeed it's being used by a profit
It
group,
can't be used
okay,
for profit, it can't be political, and it can't be religious. That's in that policy.
okay.
So I'll go up and get it.
How do you define politics?
Am I getting shorter? These chairs getting shorter? Seems like I'm
You must be getting shorter.
I'm gonna have to bring my Sears catalog if I can find one.
Well, in essence of time,
Let's move forward. I think, personally, I don't want to try to hammer out the details of the policy tonight. I want to determine yay or nay on the public and how often, and try to come to some, at least get closer to a conclusion on how much do we want to pay for as far as security goes. Kind of like the idea that Kurt brought up about so many evenings a month, not any evening in the month.
Well, and it could be right, and it could be that there'll be very little use of public use, almost nil. No, I would agree with you and Kurt that maybe the best way to plan for that is to have a limited number of evenings paid for, and hopefully, maybe it wouldn't be utilized enough to be a problem.
Trying to think of who used the building pre-COVID.
Cub Scouts were in here a handful of times. Like I said, 4-H.
4-H.
FFA were in here. There was some,
Dairy ambassador or something or another.
I can remember 6 or 7 different groups that had come in after hours. At that point, it was similar to what Tim was mentioning, though. They'd have to buzz the jail to get let in that visiting door, and they would use the Trempealeau or the Packer room at that point.
I think the public will grant you some time to figure it out as a new building comes online and an old building potentially gets remodeled. It's gonna be a little bit chaotic, and maybe you have some time to hammer this out.
Well, are we in agreement that we will allow to some way, shape, or form public groups that don't violate the county policy of political, religious, or for-profit access to a certain degree?
as long as the court or clerk's office approves it and the sheriff's department's able to provide security. If they can't, then it's denied. And I think they have to pay for the space now based on the policy, correct? So I know we had talked in the past about making sure that that payment for space access is enough to cover security. So.
And that's gonna limit some, obviously, because the
certainly
cost of
is.
security is, say a 2-hour meeting is, fairly substantial.
Wages and benefits, you're talking?
I think the policy he has says $50, no matter what.
That may be, have to be reviewed.
Well, we would have to review it periodically, but I'm a little hesitant to charge them for what it costs in security, because I think you might be getting up to the $130, $150 a meeting type of thing if it's a
Very
2-hour
possible.
meeting.
And you guys did make one change in it already, changed the $20 to $50.
Right.
But this
I
rate is.
I think that's what we kind of said, though. We knew it wasn't going to cover all of the expense, but it's an offset anyway. And as long as the sheriff's department has the authority to say, hey, we can't cover it tonight because we don't have coverage, then okay, you can't have the meeting, but. And then I think we just reserve the right to wait until after the building's done and we have a better idea of ingress, egress, what's available, what's not available, and how, before we update that policy.
I'll read sections of the current courthouse meeting room policy. Excuse me. Use of the meeting room shall be given in the following priority. 1, Trempealeau County Board. 2, Trempealeau County Standing Committees. 3, Trempealeau County employees/departments. 4, entities conducting business related to a county service or program or providing a public service. 5, entities conducting official business not related to county service or program or providing a public service. 6, private entities or individuals conducting private business. No meetings will be allowed to be held in the Trempealeau County Courthouse, and that evidently will be changed, that title, for any political, religious, or profit-making nature where the purpose of the meeting is to promote a political perspective, engage in religious activity, and/or conduct a profit-making activity. $50 fee may be charged, and approval must come from the property committee or the Trempealeau County Clerk's office.
I think the may be charged should probably be changed to shall be charged.
When lawyers come and do depositions here, we don't charge for that anymore.
No, because it's,
We used to, but I know, yeah. So there isn't anything that we've been charging for, because we haven't had that.
You want to make that a motion, David?
Motion to change that?
Yep.
Yeah, I make a motion to change the policy on after-hours use of the building by other entities to include a shall pay for $50 an hour per meeting.
An hour? Or
Or $50 per meeting,
I'll second that.
okay?
let me write that on there.
We can always revise.
Are there exceptions?
Well, if it's, I see what you're saying, like 4-H. But that ties into county activity, though.
Cub Scouts,
Pardon?
Cub Scouts,
Yeah.
shall we just vote as stated, and then we'll let the clerk
Interpret.
Come
bring it
back.
back for discussion?
Right.
All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. There we go. Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Building update.
You think we're done discussing that one? Building update. Am I looking at the amended one?
Screening policy.
Oh, employee screening policy. And again, are we gonna beat this to death?
This is different.
Oh,
This is employee screening.
no, I reiterate, are we gonna beat this to death? Because I remember talking about this and agreeing that employees will be screened.
Right, and you told me to revise the policy.
Oh.
I got the policy from the sheriff, and I've delivered the copy as is to you, and I wanted to find out what you wanted me to change about it, because I didn't just want to go off and make my own interpretations of what was said at the last meeting. So my reading of this, the purpose and scope sections on page 1, policy statement appear to all be acceptable. Where it gets weird, related to your desires, would be 807.4, which is on the second page. We would have to basically entirely modify this entire section. You're not going to be able to enter by exterior doors during business hours, either on re-entry or exit. We'll have to change the location of the main checkpoint, of course, to the new entrance. And permitted to leave by all exits will have to be removed as well. Am I understanding you correct in that? Okay. Parking can be modified, although we could just eliminate that entirely, because people park where people park. I don't know if that affects the security at all. Screening exceptions, we would have to take out sworn active law enforcement personnel have key card access to all entry doors. That will not be true anymore, so we have to remove that, correct, Jeremy?
Correct.
Can I ask for a timeout?
Yes, sir.
We're talking about one entrance.
Correct, that's why we have to remove all entry doors from there,
Okay,
because they
and-
will not, they'll have key card entrance to the main entrance, but not to all doors. They will also probably be able to enter through that jail door but not after hours.
Well, that's up to the jail, or whether they got somebody staffed that window, or if it goes to the control room or not, they'll buzz them into that hallway. But as of right now, there's no other gonna be law enforcement.
Right, but
They're gonna go in through the front door, and
But
that's about
we
it.
will leave that up to the sheriff,
Yeah.
because he might have them come through the Sally part for all we know.
Yeah,
I
or the
don't-
main garage off of Dewey,
And
however
there's
he wants to work.
2 exits,
Oh, the quick trip
quick
nonsense.
trip exit.
But
and
you can't
main.
re-enter through the quick trip,
cannot
so I don't
re-enter.
need to modify the language for that.
All right,
Then 807.6, again, letter C, district attorney, circuit court judges, and court commissioners will have electric key card access and not required to go through screening. Is that preserved?
my personal opinion, no.
Well, the judge will have their own, judge and visiting judges will come through the garage, and
They
that
have their own separate
applies.
entrance, essentially.
But I don't know that the DAs will,
Visiting
so,
attorneys,
right, they go through screening, right?
No, the DA will be going through just like us.
Okay.
you know what the,
Do I need to
Current-
remove them from that list?
yes,
Okay. Transport officers, again, leave that up to the staff. Trempealeau County maintenance employees have unrestricted access. Do I need to change that at all? Because it doesn't say anything about which doors.
No, because, well, we can open.
Can we
any
add
door.
IT to that?
Yeah. Because you open the same doors I do.
And then that was, everything else looked like you could just leave it in place if we modify it so that we, basically 807.4 gets modified. And then there's some changes to 807.6 to meet the new buildings specifications.
Dot 12 can be removed too. I don't do the temporary passes anymore.
Okay? Thank you, Jeremy. Scrape that off. So if I make these revisions, run it through by the new corp counsel and the sheriff prior to the next property committee meeting, would you be amenable to that?
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have.
Would you, when you redo this, can you just underline changes or something to that effect, or just
Yeah, that could
highlight,
that's probably doable.
highlight it somewhere?
Straight through.
Yeah, the electronic document I'll submit to you will be highlighted on the changed
Yeah.
components, and then if you need a printed copy of the packet, I'm sure that they could run that off for the packet.
couple of the main issues we had with the current screening entry were with visiting attorneys.
In that 80711 too, Tim, public and after-hour use.
Right, David brought that up before the meeting, that it's referenced in here.
Okay.
And we would just refer to that policy, would we not? Yeah, we would have to update it to reflect the new situation with the parking lot and the entrance,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it probably needs to say what the procedure is for entrance and egress,
Okay,
which we may not know until after it's all done.
I will give it I mainly focused on the employee portion of this because that was what I was tasked with, but I will go through the entire document and work with Brett and then give the new corp counsel, I'll give everything a look over and run it by him. And then if there's any updates, I can email those out to you as well if I discover anything new.
Building update.
So since the last time we met, we did email you guys the PDF copy of the bid documents. The bid documents are out for bidders to review. Jeremy and Tim have both provided a list to our team that will be amended. So what we're going to do is have a pre-bid on October 4th. Bidders will be able to come in, ask questions. We'll probably let them see a portion of the building. They then give us questions. We'll answer the questions in an addendum. We'll incorporate Tim and Jeremy's comments into the addendum to change the bid documents. And the bid date is still on October 19th. The project out, the addition is still scheduled to be substantially complete by the end of October. We're working with Jeremy and Tim on some connection points for internet and that sort of thing. But that's all I have for an update, unless you guys have other things you want to have tweaked. But I think the things that Jeremy and Tim have identified are a good list. So
And so you said it was the preliminary bid? What did you call it?
pre-bid.
Pre-bid.
So what it is contractors are able to come in and they ask questions about the documents. So we put the documents on the street for a while so they can actually open them up. And then when they start to ask questions about what about this, what about that, we make them document those questions to us in an email. Those questions are then answered in an addendum that is issued to all the plan houses. So the bidders will see the questions by those contractors for clarification on the documents. That way they get an opportunity to ask questions about the documents. That addendum will incorporate those questions and also the changes that Tim and Jeremy have identified.
So when is the final bid gonna go out then?
The documents are out to bid. So the documents are out there for them to bid. So
Okay.
they can open up the documents, and while they're going through it, they can ask, they have questions, and we tell them, come to this pre-bid meeting to ask the questions. Then the actual bid, we will receive bids on October 19th.
That was my question.
There will be a bid opening on the 19th. Correct.
So that's when you'd have a preliminary cost.
That'll be the final cost.
Yeah, as well, the cost at the mid to end of that day, you
Correct.
would know what everything was
Which
at.
we were hoping to have something by budget, before budgets are all done.
Well, budgets won't be,
Give us a little bit of time.
yeah, we'll vote on them in November, so.
November is when
Yep.
you'll pass the budget.
So we tentatively have a property meeting scheduled with you guys on October 24th, because we'll have bids on the 19th. And then that following week, we'll meet with you after we're able to qualify those bids. So,
Should exec finance also have to meet to find the money?
well, I think obviously before your budget period there, but I think first of all, hopefully we have a complete number, that everybody gets us numbers, right? Yeah, I would plan that you're gonna need something between that 24th and the 14th of November, so.
Maybe we should have a combined meeting
Yeah,
for that.
a joint meeting would make sense, because that, we'll be voting at the November meeting. The board will. But there may be questions that exec finance would have a
Yeah.
chance to ask at that time.
mhm.
October
mean-
24th?
24th, we had tentatively talked about that property meeting, so.
Because some of the agenda, or one of the agenda items needs to be, review and discuss payment options for old building, what do you call it?
Renovation.
Remodeling. Do we make decisions on where at least the majority of that funding or all of the funding could come from?
That's all I had for an update, Dan.
Thank you.
We're gonna be done end of October?
Substantially complete.
What does that mean?
Substantially complete.
Substantially complete means that we're still going to be doing punch list items, so touching up paint, those sorts of details, testing and balancing. So they'll be coming through and testing and balancing all the systems that are there. But occupancy won't happen until obviously the DOC approves it, and the DOC won't approve it until after they get the shakedown done. So that's why it's all tied together. It's really finalizing and wrapping up the details. So.
And was there going to be a grand opening or a open house before?
Haven't set the date. We talked about that being sometime after the first of the year, something like that, but there hasn't been a date set. So. Christmas Eve, maybe?
At midnight?
Kidding.
Well, that had to be, didn't you say it had to be done before the DOC comes in?
The shakedown has to be done, meaning that they have
But
to do
the open
training.
house, because if people come in,
No. Yeah.
Now, I'd heard of potential delay due to, what was the issue? Some vendor didn't have internet access for.
That's something that we will have an answer on tomorrow. Hopefully the WHV, the person that we needed, called out sick today. So I let Tad know we weren't able to get an answer on any of that, but we were hoping to get today.
Okay.
So that's
Can you
up in the air.
Can you refresh my memory? What?
It has to do with the testing and balancing of the HVAC system. That's something that WHV didn't communicate to Samuel's group beforehand, which didn't get communicated since they didn't tell them, they didn't tell us, and it's a prickly issue for Tim to try to help figure out, but we don't know what he needs to do because WHV, the person that needs to tell us what they need, we haven't been able to get 100%. They tried to tell me.
They asked me for IP addresses, and that's been the extent of it. And beyond that, I have no idea what they need.
And then once
Whether
they
it's a
start
one-time deal, if it's a long-term deal, what I need to connect to, if it's just a switch or get out to the internet.
Yeah, the way that
I don't know
happened
where
was-
I'm doing the connections, if it can be Wi-Fi.
Because the gentleman that needs it would have been like Tim telling me everything he needs and the acronyms he uses, me trying to remember all that and telling you. It doesn't go well. So that's where we're trying to get their IT person to talk to our IT people to figure out what the problem is.
We're gonna have to do some drops.
But that's a potential delay.
Until it could be. But until we know the extent of what they need. It's here on my stress level, but
Yeah.
it hasn't risen, it hasn't hit my face yet. I'm only right up to here right now.
Up to here.
The rest of this is just.
We're gonna have to daisy chain some switches together and run them into that building for your existing network.
All right, Justice Center / Courthouse address information. Jeremy.
Okay, so what I have here is just the address for the new courthouse. Went to Land Records, who issues the new address, brought that address to the city of Whitehall, issued by Land Records, Whitehall, the city of Whitehall's approved it. Post office has no care, they just want to know what the new address is going to be. The new address is going to be listed at 18600 Hobson Street. Currently, the address of the building where we're at now is 36245 Main Street. The mailing address of the current building is P.O. Box 67. So into the new year, the physical address and the mailing address will be this 18600 Hobson Street. So we will get that new building on the postal route, which we currently are not now. So I don't know if I just needed a motion from property to accept that new address because it's already been issued by everyone, but I need to let every department head know. And what the courts need to know because they need to start sending out notifications for court already for January, which will that be this new address. And Land Records needs to put it into GPS coordinates so people can look it up appropriately. So I'm just hoping to get a motion to accept the 18600 Hobson Street address.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, on that then, we're gonna need to have all letterhead, any reference to the old address taken out, website, locations, all the rest.
Yep.
So,
Yep, which would be the purpose of notifying all of the department heads so that they don't order any more letterhead or any more pre-addressed envelopes.
right,
They can start addressing stuff. But again, this address wouldn't go into effect completely until occupancy, and it would be the first part of next year. But this is just giving the people the heads up. Please don't go buy 5,000 envelopes before the
Right.
end of the year. And maybe just go buy the sticky stickers to put over the existing ones that you have.
right. Biggest thing is changing the IT part of it, that's visual to anybody and everybody that looks, I guess. You know, where's it at?
Well, it's not just that, it's the 300 pages of vendors that we have that have different, the PO Box 67. So it will be, it's not gonna be immediate. I'm still gonna, I've already talked to the post office, the 36245 Main will still be an address that can be used for a short time. The PO Box I will continue to pay for at a minimum of a year, probably 2. And then the post office is already aware that anything that comes in with the 18600, the Main Street, or the PO Box will all get put into a mail bin that will come here. So it will be a work in progress, but I just need to get it started.
Yep.
Now, are you still gonna have to pick up mail?
For a short time, but once we're on the postal route, no, that will no longer be a portion of maintenance. And then each department head, there are a few departments, courts, DA, stuff that might need something post dated that day, and they don't know until the afternoon. Either that department can take it down, or they can make arrangements with my staff to bring something down if they need it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, items for the next meeting agenda. Well, let's keep,
Well, this was a special one, so
You gotta go back one meeting, and I'll leave that stuff on there.
His update,
And-
that stuff.
Yeah,
This needs to get
yeah.
Revised and
Tim's
brought back.
revision of policy 807. That'd be it.
That would be this one here, right? Screening.
Paul, when, under the IT updates section of property, does that allow them to take action on it?
Well, I usually have some subheadings. If you have, you had something last time or the time before, you had something on there. So,
I can touch base with you if something pops up.
Many applicants for the council.
Tentative next meeting date and time, October 9th, 8:30 a.m.
that would be your regular
Regular.
second Monday of the month, right?
Okay. And the 24th?
Yep.
Do we have a time?
I'm gonna write it on here.
So October 9th at 8:30, October 24th at 8:30. Okay?
Check on a room.
Sounds good.
Is that gonna be the regular property on the 24th, or was that gonna be your joint?
The regular was the 9th, is their regular.
Well, they
meeting.
just scheduled one on the 24th too.
That was gonna be
With
the
them, but
joint.
Is that gonna be the
Joint
joint one? Okay.
That's what I got written down here. Joint exec and property.
With that, I will adjourn this meeting at 6:45 PM.